Hello my friends, and welcome to the channel for another Escape from Tarkov video, and my first set of weapon builds for the game's 1.0 release, which still kinda feels weird to say. While a lot has changed in Tarkov for the 1.0 release, not a whole lot has changed at the level 1 traders. A lot of the classic early wipe budget builds are still the top dogs here in 1.0, so consider this a refresher course. I personally like to set up my early game builds by looting weapons and attachments from dead scavs or weapon crates, and kinda build them as I find them. But after a string of bad raids, you inevitably need to turn to the traders for your equipment needs. So hopefully this video can help out somebody who needs a budget-friendly build to head out and grab their pocket watch with. Before we get into the main part of the video though, here's a friendly reminder that I'll be streaming my progress in the Tarkov 1.0 wipe on Twitch. And if you want to come say hi or recommend builds for me to check out in future videos, there's a link to my channel in the description, or just search up JDog the Wise on Twitch. So to start this one off, I figure it's only right to begin with one of the only new additions to Tarkov's level 1 traders, the M16A2. I have been waiting for years to get my hands on an M16 in Tarkov, and I didn't think I would have to wait until 1.0 for it to happen. But hey, at least we finally got one. The M16A2 can be purchased from Peacekeeper level 1 for about $700, and can essentially be considered as an upgraded ADAR, with better accuracy and a burst fire mode for close range fights. At level 1 traders, you unfortunately have no easy way to get rid of the carry handle and add a sight, unless you get creative. You want to keep your eye out for any ADAR rifles in your raids, and then you can use the ADAR upper receiver as a replacement for the carry handle receiver, and then add a sight onto the M16. You can spawn with an ADAR on your scav runs. It's a very common weapon to find on dead scavs, and you can also loot it out of weapon crates, so there's a couple different ways to get the receiver. Once you do get it, swap this for the M16A2 receiver, and then you have a rail to add sights, and from level 1 skier you can get yourself the MRS reflex sight, which puts the dot right at the top of the front sight post, so it's pretty easy to aim with. Or if you complete Gunsmith Part 1, you will unlock the railed gas block for the AR-15, and then you can replace the front sight gas block to get a cleaner sight picture. The best part of this build is that it will transport you back in time to Call of Duty 4, because this is pretty much the exact M16 red dot build that used to dominate lobbies way back in 2007. The ADAR receiver used to be sold by Skier level 1 for dirt cheap, but now it has moved to Skier level 2, so you have to find your own receiver until then. I personally think that was changed just to make this build harder to put together, which is a shame, but hey, it's still doable. Next up, let's take a look at an absolute classic early wipe weapon build, the surprisingly budget suppressed AKS-74U Build. This thing has been a staple of low-level Tarkov raids since almost the very beginning of the game's history, and it's still going strong here in 1.0. While it might not have the same performance at longer ranges compared to the full-size AK rifles, the 74U is a really solid weapon for close and even medium range as long as you don't spray it too wildly. In the early game, you're most likely not even going to have access to any magnified scopes anyways, at least not any good ones, so you're kind of stuck with red dot sights which limit your range, so you might as well build for close range anyways. The only requirement for this build is that you need to finish the debut task from Proper, and then you can buy the suppressed AKS-74U Build from Proper level 1 for about 70,000 rubles. But if you don't have this quest done, you can still buy the regular AKS-74U, you just won't get the suppressor. All the rest of the parts are available from the level 1 traders, starting with the Zenit B11 handguard, which adds on rails for attachments. You can buy the Zenit RK6 foregrip from Skier level 1, and he also sells a 25mm mount ring and a flashlight for that mounting ring as well. This gives you a nice little stat bonus from the foregrip and a flashlight for extra utility. Next, you can add on the Pilgrim dust cover from Skier level 1, and you can put sights on this dust cover. I usually stick with the MRS for low-level builds, but there's a few other options like the Cobra sight from Jaeger. And with that, the build is complete. This is pretty much the only suppressed assault rifle that you can easily build using level 1 traders. And if you find some decent ammo for it in raid, this gun can put in some serious work for you until you get access to better stuff later on in the game. Coming up next, let's take a look at how I like to build the full-size AK rifles at the start of the game, when all I have access to is level 1 traders and a pocket full of rubles. Full-sized AKs are a bit more limited when it comes to modding using only level 1 traders, but if you make a little progress down the Gunsmith questline and finish Gunsmith Part 2, you get access to a handguard that can let you add a foregrip and a flashlight to your rifles pretty early on. If you haven't done those quests, don't worry, I do have an alternative for you. So for my money, I generally prefer to run the 7.62 AKs at the start of the wipe, since the 7.62x39 SP ammo is actually kinda decent compared to the options for 5.45. That being said, this build will work on almost any full-sized AK rifle that you might find in Tarkov, so you can use it on whatever you have or whatever you prefer. To start this build off, you can buy a Vepr 136 semi-auto AK from Skier level 1 for about 30,000 rubles, or like I said, you can make this build on basically any AK that you find out in Tarkov. The first thing that you're going to add is the AK-100 series polymer handguard, which is sold by Proper Level 1 after completing Gunsmith Part 2. Then you can use this handguard to attach the Zenit RK6 foregrip and the same 25mm mounting ring and flashlight that I recommended in the AKS-74U build. If you don't have this unlocked, instead you can buy the Ultimac M1B railed gas tube from Skier Level 1. This replaces the regular gas tube and handguard, and it doesn't let you add a foregrip, but it does decrease your recoil slightly. And if you get creative, you can actually mount the Surefire XC1 flashlight from Mechanic on the top rail, so you can still have a light if you really want one. Next, you want to grab a Bastion dust cover from Skier Level 1. Then you can add that to the rifle and put on a red dot sight or whatever scope you can find in Raid to mount on this thing. And with that, the build is done. Like I said earlier, I kinda prefer 7.62 AKs in the early game, even though they're stuck with 20 round magazines from Skier. However, this build will work on any AKM, AK-74, or AK-100 rifle in the game, so you can build it on a lot of different guns that you might find in Raid or get as a quest reward early on. Next up for this video, let's change gears and check out the Uzi submachine gun, a cheap but effective little weapon that has been kind of an instant classic for the early game ever since it was added to Tarkov. The Uzi is a cheap, relatively lightweight, easily controllable weapon that I find to be really excellent for budget loadouts. The gun itself is cheap, the magazines are cheap, and you start with like 500 9mm rounds in your stash, and you can also buy green tracer rounds from Mechanic for a low price. This gun does not scale that high up the power level chart for late game, but early game it is a really effective budget weapon that I really enjoy using for quests and looting runs. To make a really simple Uzi build, you can just buy one from Peacekeeper and then add the Uzi Stormworks bottom rail and sight mount. The bottom rail allows you to add a blue laser or the Surefire XC1 flashlight, and the top rail allows you to add pretty much any red dot sight. After that, just buy a couple 25 round mags from Peacekeeper and you're set to head out into the raid. Alternatively though, if you keep your eyes out for the blue Insec pipe wrench, you can trade one of these for a suppressed Uzi build at Mechanic level 1. Once you make the trade, all you need to do is add the scope mount and a red dot sight and you have an awesome little suppressed SMG build to run around Tarkov with. I personally love this barter trade, and I keep my eyes open for every toolbox and technical crate to try and find one of these blue wrenches. Next up, we come to the PP-19, another certified classic weapon of the Tarkov early game. This little budget blaster is essentially just a 9mm AK, and for my money, I personally think the PP-19 is way better than the MP5 for early game loadouts, because it's much cheaper to add a sight onto it, and the recoil is much easier to control without a full build. This is a starting weapon for the superior Bear faction. It's relatively common as a drop from weapon boxes, and you can buy it from Proper Level 1 for about 30,000 rubles, so it's very easy to get a hold of. For early game loadouts, you have two basic options for the PP-19. If you've completed Gunsmith Part 2, you can unlock the AK-100 series polymer handguard, which then allows you to add on a flashlight and a foregrip. So then you can add on the Zenit RK6 grip for a stat bonus, and either a blue laser or a flashlight. If you don't have this unlocked, honestly, it's perfectly acceptable to just run this with the default handguard and no foregrip. It really does not make it that much worse. Then to add a sight onto this thing, you can just go to Proper Level 1 and get the EKP-1S Dovetail Reflex sight, and it just goes onto the dovetail mount on the side of the PP-19. You can have this build put together for as cheap as like 42,000 rubles, And you can get an easy to use SMG with 30 round mags that is an excellent budget choice for loot runs, questing, or even early game PvP. And last but certainly not least, we come to the VPO-215 bolt action rifle, which is a surprisingly useful weapon to use for the early Tarkov shooter quests, and just in general as a long distance scav killer. You can set this rifle up with a 25mm scope mount and the Pylad 4x rifle scope, both from Jaeger, to create a really cheap budget sniper. It's not actually great at true sniper rifle distance, but it's very effective at taking down scavs or unaware players at around that 100-meter mark. You can also buy a suppressor from Skier level 1 for this thing if you really want to, and then you can just sneak around the trees doming scavs while nobody really knows you're there. And that about wraps it up for this video. These are not all the weapons that you can build from level 1 traders, but in my opinion, these are the best bang for your buck setups that you can put together using only the level 1 traders. It has been a while since I made a video like this for Tarkov, so let me know if I missed anything down in the comments. I'm excited to dive into the level 2 traders next because there's a lot more variety now than I remember, so I think there should be some pretty fun builds to mess around with. Until then though, thanks for checking out the video. I have a link to my Twitch channel in the description if you want to come check out some Tarkov gameplay live, and until next time, stay safe in Tarkov City everyone.